Public service had always had an appeal for you. After you came out of the military, you did a little stint in law, as you pointed out.
Right.
But early on, you were out there, you were working for Tom Bradley. You were thinking about a role for yourself. What prompted you to do all of this? We're talking 35 years ago.
I know it. It was just a totally different world. There was no internet, no cell phones. It was a totally different world. And I was like dating myself now, a Norman Rockwell kid. I had no interest in politics. And I ended up in Vietnam because I was in ROTC in college. It was a way you could earn some extra money. And I was really struck by the fact that there were very few people who went to Stanford and Columbia Law School as I did in Vietnam. It was mostly African Americans and Hispanics, and if people were Anglo, they tended to be from the South. And it just struck me as wrong. If America was going to fight a war, whether it was wise or not for us to do that is another question, but if we're going to fight a war, the burden should be shared equally. I didn't know what I was going to do about it, but that is the first moment in my life when I thought, maybe I ought to do something to see if I can't right the wrong here.
And the next step was?
Well, I didn't have a next step. I came back and I practiced law, but I volunteered in John Tunney's campaign in 1970 for the U.S. Senate. 3 years later, I got a call from a man named Nelson Rising, who was chairing Tom Bradley's first successful race for mayor, and I ended up working for him, and the rest is history.
What was it about it that when you got into it, and I guess the question is, was it the Tunney campaign? Was it working for Bradley? Where was the point at which you said, I'd like to do this myself. I'd like to be elected to something?
Well, the Bradley campaign was a source of great pride to me. I enjoyed working for John Tunney. I think he's a fine person and served the country well. But Tom Bradley had lost in 1969 when I was in Vietnam. And running again in 73, a lot of people wondered whether or not he could win, whether people were ready for an African-American mayor, to put it bluntly. And with his wonderful sense of dignity and great presence, he just won people over. And even though the polls showed he was going to win in May of 73, they'd shown he was going to win 4 years ago. And this time he won. And it was a sense that we put a good man as the mayor of LA, and the people of LA had done the right thing. So that really charged my batteries. I said, this is pretty special stuff, and maybe I ought to do it myself.
You know, it was interesting because that election had repercussions way beyond Los Angeles. The ripple effect spread all across the country, didn't it?
Sure, because he was one of the first African Americans to head a major city. I don't know if LA was the second largest city then, but if not, it was the third. And that gave motivation, inspiration to people all over the country.
So you thought, golly, I'd like to be elected too.
Well, it wasn't just his winning. It was that LA had done the right thing, elected the best person for the job. That was a great statement about LA, and a very fine person became mayor of LA. So it was more than just a person winning a race. It was the significance and historical importance of his winning that race.
And then you looked at running for treasurer?
State treasurer. I thought, well, this is no problem to this politics thing. And on the last possible day to file in 1974, a man named Jess Unruh, who had run for governor 2 or 3 years earlier and had been the Speaker of the Assembly, a legendary figure, decided he wanted to be treasurer. And just by filing, he beat me. I didn't know that until election day, but in essence, that's what happened. He was so much better known, I had no chance.
But didn't you? I think I remember you carrying a cardboard cutout of Jess.
Oh yeah, bro. We did everything we could to try and get some attention, but like a lot of people in life, if you have a setback, you can say, okay, well, this is not for me. I'm going to try something else, or you can get off the mat and try again. And that's eventually what I did. It was many years later. In the interim, I had a chance to. I had met and was invited to work for Jerry Brown, and ended up being his chief of staff the first 6 years of his administration, which was just a wonderful experience, which I enjoyed very much.